So the next step that this leads to is sketching tasks for each sub-goal. And these kind of develop organically, right? And if I'm thinking about what I can have my students do, it can take a lot of forms. But whatever form, whether it's writing a report, making a model, playing a game, writing a play, or whatever, they need to go through certain cognitive skills and demonstrate that they can do certain things. So whatever I have them do, right, it's gotta get at the skills, and I need those to make it concrete. So in one sense, I need to just give them an ecosystem that has relationships already defined. Having them figure out how to define them was last lesson. Right now, I'm not worried about that. And I need them to describe the particular changes or set of changes that will impact the ecosystem. In other words, what's going to change? How fast is it going to change? Will it lead to any extinction? What type of succession is going on, and so on. And so I need to give them an ecosystem that has all the necessary information provided. And I will have subtasks where I ask them questions or have them demonstrate something about the time in which changes will occur, what different types of succession are going to do, and ultimately identifying any invasive species, potential extinction candidates, or climax communities. As I go through then through step 6 and I refine these tasks, right, they will need to be given an ecosystem that identifies the following relationships. I need things that compete. I need some symbiotic relationships. I need adaptations. I need predator-prey relationships. We can think about that island ecosystem as an example, but you would have to make relationships a little more specific so they don't have to hunt for them. And then I would introduce a situation in which a change occurs, either man-made or natural, or both. And the students will have to tell me what happens. Somehow deleted that. A sample task might be something like this. A business on a nearby island decides that they need to sell the lumber from the island, and the island undergoes deforestation in the first 3 years that completely destroys the palm tree population of 400 until none remain. Furthermore, the business does not replant new trees, but will hope for the palm trees to regrow on their own. Now, having not spent a lot of time with the island ecosystem, one of the things about the palm trees is that this was the only place in the world that they grew. They also grew very slowly. So when they cut them all down, basically they're not coming back. So that's going to be the extinction thing, something the students will have to be able to point out. In this case, what type of succession is occurring? It is secondary. Explain how you know. And based on what you know about the deforestation, the relationship in this island ecosystem, what will the island be like 5 years from now? Be sure to describe the direct and indirect impact on the plant and animal life, as well as which organisms will not be affected. And note that this prompt is pretty loosely structured, just enough to give me insight into how they have internalized what we've talked about in class. This would require me to train them on how to approach these problems. And this is what, graduate school, your undergraduate degree, it teaches you how to see education in a particular way. And so when you get turned loose with real kids in the real world, you know what to do. I also then need to refine my performance description, and I need to align or make sure things are aligned with the skills. So I might get a little more detailed here in about what exactly students will be doing. If I would have chosen a different thing to focus on, it might look a little bit different. But based on this task, this is the rubric or the set of criteria for success that I'm coming up with, right? And so as I go through, I have my overall lesson goal. I have my primary versus secondary succession goal. I have my causal goal, and I have my application of terminology goal. Now, when you think of what you actually want your students to do, again, anything goes as long as it's in alignment, meaning that they do the right skills at the right level of cognition. So you could have them design, or you could design a simulation or a game that requires them to save the rainforest in 10 steps or less, right? By stopping different causal factors for succession, by identifying any invasive species and figuring out how to stop them, things like that. You could have them research current events involving industrialization and do their own environmental impact report and propose what industry should be accountable for. You could have them construct a before and after diorama with a split screen highlighting the changes that occurred due to human and or natural causes. But whatever it is, it needs to elicit the same skills. They need to do all this stuff, right? They need to demonstrate mastery of these goals. You can have performance assessments with the writing, but it's not really a thing that you're focused on unless you're trying to integrate across the curriculum. Now this leads us to your assignment. What I'd like you to do is turn your essay into a performance assessment. Now, the great news is you've done a lot of heavy lifting hopefully by now, and you've already thought about your goals, and you know exactly what you're shooting for. You have the goal structure, and that goal structure should set up your rubric or task framework. Now this example is from a 2-lesson unit, very short one, on energy and ecosystems, but it gives the general idea, right? I have my main goal, I have a lesson 1 goal and lesson 1 sub-goals, I have a lesson 2 goal and lesson 2 sub-goals. What you need to do then is create a set of directions that would give your students the information that they would need to demonstrate the skills that you're shooting for. You should already have a rubric, and if you focused on the skills, feedback will be coming out in the next day or two. If you did focus on the skills, you shouldn't have to change much at all, because a lot of people put writing stuff into the essay. The only thing you'll have to do is get rid of it. But if you're going to have them write a play, you shouldn't have anything about play-specific stuff in this rubric. It should all be about your goals, whether it's science, social studies, or whatever. Okay? So your rubric should be almost already made. You might have to modify a few things, but it should be able to be used for any project you would give, any essay you would give, or any other type of paper and pencil assessment. You should be, if it's focused on the skills and it's aligned with the skills, you should be able to use it for anything, and it will always give you the same results. Some key things to focus on. 1, alignment. Make sure that your directions or prompts give you what you want. They force the students to do what you need them to do. Again, the rubric needs to be aligned, and if you had a problem with that in the essays, and you're going to have to judge this for yourself, make sure that you fix it for this one. Materials. You will, in some cases, need to describe the materials you're using, depending on whether or not you are doing the ocean unit or the social studies unit or whatever, because different tasks might require computers, might require smartphones, might require field trips, and so on. So think that through. And finally, when we think about the prompts in a little more detail, we need to think about how much structure you are going to give them. Again, alignment is necessary, but the amount of structure you give depends on what you want. If you give them a ton of structure and paint by numbers directions, you will have way better inter-rater reliability. You'll have less problems, less headaches. You'll be more consistent in your scoring, but you won't get to see how things are structured in the students' heads. If you give less structure, you'll have way more reliability issues, but at least you'll get to see how things are organized. So, as an example, right? Little structure. This would let me see how things are organized in my students' heads. In the space below, describe in detail the different aspects of succession that will result from deforestation. And this is a different example, or from the business example. Moderate structure. because people could interpret this in a lot of ways. There's no extensiveness, right? One of the guidelines for essay type things. There is no level of depth. There's no time indicated, no point value, all that stuff, right? Isn't a part of it. So I will have reliability issues. If I go with moderate structure, I could worry that my students won't know what I'm talking about. So I could say, in space below, describe in detail the different aspects of succession that will result from deforestation. And now I'm going to add some more stuff. Be sure to describe what deforestation is, what type of succession it entails, along with the direct and indirect impact it will have on the organisms in the ecosystem. Please limit your response to 3 or 4 paragraphs. I could worry that that's not enough, that I'm still getting too inconsistent results and it's making my life, well, I'm having less time than I want. So this is even more structure. In the space below, describe in detail the different aspects of succession that will result from deforestation. In the first paragraph, describe what deforestation is and its typical direct and indirect effects. In the second paragraph, describe whether the succession that will result from deforestation is primary or secondary, explaining your answer and what this means for this ecosystems. In your third paragraph, describe which organisms will be directly affected, those that will be indirectly affected, and those that will not be affected. In other words, cover all the bases. Make sure to identify any species that are likely to go extinct and invasive species that are involved, and whether or not this will result in a climax, community, and why. Super detailed, right? Now, if I get to that point, I have to ask myself, why in the world am I having them even write an essay type of performance assessment? Why not just make it a series of kind of restricted essay questions? Way more reliable, easier to grade. I could keep going and turn this all into multiple choice if I wanted to. But the problem is that does not let me see how my students view the world, right? I don't get to see what's in their head because I'm telling them how to think about things. If I want to see if any of that's stuck, I can't do it this way. I have to go this way. Now, this leads to one more question. When should you share rubrics with students? So whether you're doing an essay or a project performance assessment, when is it a good idea to share your rubrics with your students? Now, the positives are that it helps the student better understand the objectives, recognize what processes they need to follow, diagnose different strengths and weaknesses, and become better at self-assessment. Oh, this is what I should be thinking about when I'm wondering if I did a good job or not, right? I can also ask them to help me develop the rubric, which helps with their critical thinking, increases motivation because they have more ownership, have more identification with it, right? But again, the problem is that we're going to tell everyone how to think, whether it's me making it or them making it, right, or both of us. And I can't see how they have it organized in their head. So if I'm in the situation where I don't care how it's organized in their head, it's not what I'm really trying to figure out, then share the rubric. If you want to see, though, what people are going to do on their own out in the real world, don't share the rubric because you will shoot yourself in the foot and a higher level set of tasks or project will become a series of lower level tasks. So that is it. I will send out another description and an email about what this assignment entails, and you'll be getting feedback on your rubrics and essays assignment on Monday or Tuesday. Wait to do this until you've seen that. I will not be giving individual feedback on these. I will be giving overall feedback about things that people did well, things that people did not do well. I will also be giving out those bonus points for the best submissions. All right, have a great week.